In today's video, we've got quite an intriguing topic to explore: ACT, acceptance and commitment therapy. In today's video, we're going to delve right into this. What is ACT? What is it all about? And how can it help us to improve our lives? I'll also share a little bit of a lesser-known secret, or let's say trivia, about ACT therapy. So let's get started. Acceptance and commitment therapy is a mindfulness kind of based psychotherapy, which helps individuals to be more accepting of themselves, but also to foster personal values. It can also help us to develop psychological flexibility. So this is really helping us to change how we think about things. It's based on the idea that suffering is a part of the human condition, and avoidance or suppression of our suffering, our difficult feelings, can actually be quite distressing for us. We can actually experience more problems when we try to live in this way. And this is something that is quite common. Most of us have done it. Most of us do it. And really, it's something we should actually be trying to avoid doing. So ACT is actually asking us to accept and embrace our unhelpful, sometimes negative, whatever they are, those thoughts and feelings that come to us and we try to avoid, rather than avoiding and suppressing them. It also asks us to commit to action that aligns with our values. So this means we're really going to want to also identify what those values are so we can live more true to them and commit to action. ACT has 5 core processes that we need to follow really to be able to do what I'm talking about, to be able to achieve psychological flexibility. So what do you think the first one might be? Well, it's acceptance. And that's the idea that we accept and embrace our thoughts and feelings rather than, as I said before, rather than trying to eliminate them or to avoid or suppress them, we instead confront and accept them. And the way we do that is we acknowledge, we accept, and we do this without judgment. Now, by doing this, we actually reduce the struggle and the emotional pain that can often be associated with our thoughts, feelings, or experiences. The second core process is called cognitive diffusion. And this is the idea that we detach ourselves from the judgmental and negative ways of thinking about things. So what that means is, rather than just automatically believing anything that our mind tells us, and of course here what I'm talking about is those negative thoughts we might have, or unhelpful thoughts, or things that make us feel bad. So what we do is we don't just accept them at face value. We would actually think of them a bit differently. They're just words. They're just mental events. And we don't have to accept them as truths. They do not necessarily reflect reality. And this shift actually helps us to observe our thoughts and feelings from a more objective standpoint. The third process is contact with the present moment. So ACT really encourages us to be present in the here and now. By being fully present, we can engage in the present moment. We can experience life more fully, and rather than being caught up in our worries about the future or dwelling on the past, we can actually enrich our lives by being here now. Another crucial process is self as context. Now, this is the idea that our thoughts, our feelings, and our experiences do not define our true self. Instead, we develop a sense of self that is consistent and unwavering and can help us to cope with life's ups and downs. The fifth core process is values clarification. By identifying our personal values, we can learn about what truly matters to us in life. And ACT therapy encourages us to commit to actions that align with these values. And this leads to a more meaningful and purposeful driven existence. So what are the benefits of ACT therapy? Well, research has shown it's been beneficial in many areas of life and for many kinds of problems. So that's things like anxiety, depression, substance misuse. And when I say anxiety, actually, I'm talking about all kinds of anxiety disorders. It's also been helpful for things like chronic pain. And this is where I'm going to tell you a little bit about that secret I mentioned earlier as well. A non-clinical setting in which ACT has been applied and has shown success is sports psychology. So essentially what this means is that athletes have used ACT, or it's been used by coaches when coaching athletes, to help them to achieve peak performance by applying the core principles or processes of ACT, by being accepting and embracing their thoughts and feelings without judgment, being more present, and being more psychologically flexible. They've been able to also commit to their values, their goals, and achieve peak performance. So indeed, ACT can help us to achieve a more meaningful and enriched life that's aligned with our values, which means therefore we're living more authentically. It can help us to build resilience, cope with difficulties in a more flexible and helpful way, and it can enhance our relationships as well. So now that we understand the core processes, let's talk about how ACT might actually be applied in daily life. And, I would recommend, if you really want to try ACT proper, you do this with a therapist, but here's just some things that you might do anyway if you were to apply ACT. Now, one of these things you might have guessed is mindfulness meditation. So this is the idea of really being present in the here and now and doing that without judgment. And another technique is a values journal. Journaling is quite therapeutic anyway. You can buy all kinds of journals now that can help people, and therapists often recommend journaling. But what is a values journal? Now, this is a bit distinct, isn't it? This is quite specific to ACT. The idea is that we take time to introspect and reflect on the things that are important to us. What are our values? What's truly important to us? And what are we trying to live by? How are we trying to live? And then what are the actions that we might use or try to do to align ourselves with these values so that we might live in a more authentic way and therefore a much more satisfied way. And this one is quite important. It's self-compassion and kindness. Now, how does one do self-compassion and kindness? Especially when one is quite critical of oneself more often than not. And this is something that is quite true of many people who come to therapy. There's this very strong critical self that has developed and been honed and nurtured, over the years. But there's very rarely kind self. This is really quite sad and ironic, actually, when we think about it. But the reason why people come to therapy usually is because they want to help themselves. And one of the ways to do that would be to really change this, to counter that imbalance, having that strong critical self without the kind self. When clients say things like, or think things like, well, being self-compassionate and kind to myself is a bit self-absorbed and, it's a bit airy-fairy. It's cringy. I don't want any part of that. Well, I do get it. I understand that. I completely get that. But at the same time, I have to stress how we are so easy to criticize ourselves. We will so easily do that. But why is it so hard to be kind to ourselves? So easy to be kind to other people, but why do we only reserve that for other people and at the expense of ourselves often as well? So this is why I just don't want you to roll your eyes at that last one. If anyone did, you might not have. But that's my rant over on compassion and kindness. So I hope you'll agree that acceptance and commitment therapy is a really powerful framework for navigating life's ups and downs, of which there always will be ups and downs. By accepting our thoughts and emotions and diffusing from strong and unhelpful thinking patterns and, thoughts and feelings, and committing to our values through action, we can cultivate psychological flexibility and a more fulfilling life. Thank you for watching. And if you enjoyed this video, if you found it insightful and helpful in some way, which I hope you did, please do like and subscribe. And remember, acceptance and commitment can lead to a more purposeful and meaningful life, one in which we feel enriched and fulfilled. Thanks for watching. Take care and see you again soon.